welcome everybody in the public gallery.
Thank you.
Please note that the Council welcomes filming in line with the agreed policy, which is on display, and so can I ask anyone who wishes to film this meeting to make sure that they are sat in the front row of the public gallery. If you are not already in one of those seats and you intend to film, please bring this to the attention of an officer so that they can move you now to avoid any disruption during the meeting.
The Mayor, a number of interests have been declared by members and appropriate dispensations have been granted and will be recorded in the minutes.
Item number 2, Corporate Plan 2013-16, Year 2 Refresh. Councillor Round.
Happy to move that report, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Murphy.
Happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any questions? Is that report agreed? Item number 3, Robustness of estimates and adequacy of financial reserves. Does the Executive Director for Resources have anything to add?
Nothing to add to the report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Norman Keats.
Happy to move the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Round.
Happy to second them recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any questions? Is that report agreed? Item number 4, Treasury Management Strategy 2015-2016. Councillor Norman Keats.
Happy to move the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Round.
I second the recommendations, Mr. Mayor, of the report.
Are there any questions? Is that report agreed? Item number 5, 2014-15, Revenue Budget Monitoring Position. Councillor Norman Keats.
Happy to move the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
I think it's good.
Councillor Round.
I second those recommendations in the report, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any questions? Is that report agreed? Item number 6, Medium-Term Financial Strategy. Councillor Keats.
Happy to move the recommendations in the report, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Round.
I second the recommendations in the report, Mr. Mayor.
Again, are there any questions? Is that report agreed? Items 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 are to be moved together. They are item 7, 2014-15 and future years capital programme monitoring update. Item number 8, 2015-16 fees and charges. Item number 9, 2015-16 budget strategy, phase 2 savings options. Item number 10, 2015-16 revenue budget. And item number 11, council tax levy 2015-16. Councillor Norman Keats, I believe you wish to move the recommendations in these reports, including the resolution tabled.
Agreed, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Round, I believe you wish to second this motion.
Happy to second this motion, Mr.
Just stay up.
Councillor Norman Keats, do you wish to speak on this motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ooh.
Colleagues, local government funding has suffered under this government, and areas with the greatest level of need have been hit the hardest. Under this government, we have seen our funding reduced by 35%. When you take inflation into account, it actually means our funding has been cut by more than 50%. And the most damning fact of all is that this policy is deliberate. How can it be fair that an area like ours faces the largest reduction in funding in the country, with the loss of £169 per household next year, while the most affluent council area in the country, Wokingham, in the Royal County of Berkshire will see an increase of £50 per household. This government has even implemented specific policies like the new homes bonus to take money from deprived areas and give it to more affluent areas. For every pound taken off Knowsley to fund the new homes bonus, we get 37p back. Our friends in Wokingham, on the other hand, get £3 back for every pound they put in the pot. Like other councils in the city region and alongside with our MPs, we have explained the impact of these policies on our services and communities, and we have also offered alternative options to rebalance the position, all to no avail. As I have said, that's because it is deliberate. So we are all painfully aware that this Tory government, with their lapdog coalition partners, are hell-bent on stealing from the poor and giving to the rich. And they think they deserve a second term. They deserve a prison term, and 5 years wouldn't be long enough in my opinion. The clear financial persecution of areas like Knowsley seems lost on our local political opposition parties and even on our own trade unions. Why criticise and throw stones at this council when we are the ones managing the fallout of what this Tory government is throwing at us? None of us want to lose jobs or reduce services, and this council has done everything in its power to minimise the impact. We have to make savings of over £70 million over the last 5 years. We have done this in a planned and prioritised way, with very few compulsory redundancies and limited reductions in frontline services. So I say to those people, direct your anger and your placards at this government for causing the problem, not at those doing everything they can to manage the problem. As a well-run Labour authority, our priority is to deliver the best services we can for our residents and get the best from the resources we have left. It is important to remember we continue to deliver over 700 different services to 146,000 residents in 65,000 homes. We still spend 364 million and employ almost 3,000 people. But if we want to take this Borough forward and provide the life chances that our residents deserve, we have to do more than just balance the budget. Therefore, even in these times of severe funding cuts, we will still be investing significantly in priority services and schemes to protect our residents, provide opportunities and make our borough sustainable. I know that residents are also bearing the impact of this government's punishment for living in the north of England. So I'm proposing that there will be no increase in council tax for the 5th year in a row. Over the last 5 years, our policy of freezing the council tax has saved residents 17% on their bills when you take inflation into account. The average council tax bills in Knowsley are now 31% less than the national average. And with a majority of our lowest paid employees facing a similar financial squeeze, we will become a living wage employer from October this year. This will benefit over 700 of our lowest paid employees and their families. In turn, we hope those 700 people will invest in their local economy. Our most vulnerable residents are cared for through our social care services, and I am proposing today that we should invest an extra £9 million to deal with the increased demand and improvements in the care we provide. I am also proposing
She's just said that he doesn't
an
know his arse from
additional
his elbow in
investment
front of everyone in
of
here in a council meeting. That's atrocious
£750
behaviour.
to provide a safety
And told me
net
to shut up.
for those residents
No, you.
hit by this
On your
government's
bike.
That's
unfair
atrocious, that.
welfare
On your bike.
reforms that leave people hungry, cold and fighting to keep a roof over their heads.
Absolutely
This will include the continuation of the Council's emergency support scheme, further joint working with the Knowsley Food Bank and additional discretionary housing payments. Investment in our infrastructure and town centres across the borough has given Knowsley some truly fantastic facilities
Like a metal tree.
and helped regenerate tired areas of our borough. And of course we have recently seen for ourselves just how far we can depend on the private sector to hold up their bargain. Therefore, as part of the proposals in this budget, our town centres will benefit from a regeneration fund totalling 7.8 million, which will be used to fund further improvements leading to new and expanding businesses, jobs and housing. A further £300,000 of investment is also proposed to bring empty homes back into use, and an additional 2.1 million is proposed to be spent on highway works and bridge replacement improvements to further enhance the connectivity across our borough. Colleagues, the job of balancing the budget and investing in much needed facilities and improvements gets tougher every year. Every time we solve the problem, this government just hands us a bigger one to solve. Local government is now the most efficient part of the public sector, and perhaps the national politicians need to start to take a leaf out of our book. The funding reductions are getting bigger, the service demands are increasing, the impact on our communities is greater, and the decisions we have to take are harder. But this budget has our Labour Party principles at its heart and will allow us, even in the face of difficult decisions, to do the right thing for our communities. The proposals before you today not only balance the budget, but they will also minimise service cuts and council job losses as far as possible. We will also introduce the living wage, freeze the council tax for the 5th year in a row, protect our most vulnerable residents and invest in our town centres. I commend this budget to you all, and let's hope it's the last one we have to set under a Tory government. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Well, now you can vote against it, can't you?
Thank you, Councillor Keats.
Let's see how many do.
Can the people in the public gallery show respect to the council meeting, please?
The councillor also showed respect. She's just said someone in the public alley doesn't know their arse from their elbow and told me to shut up. That's a disgraceful way to speak to members of the public. That's an absolutely atrocious way to behave.
So don't preach to the public when your own councils are doing
When
it.
I was being
Can we
quiet
have some more,
and
please?
I was
Thank you.
antagonised.
Thank you.
Hang on. Have you finished?
Can the executive director...
Are you going to talk to your councillor?
If there are any issues to draw to the members' attention.
Nothing in the votes, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Round, do you wish to speak on this motion?
Nothing to add what's already been said, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor.
What to do?
Councillor Sandra Gaffney, I believe you wish to speak on this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do. Colleagues, I just wanted to say really a few words about the human resource implications of this budget. Despite the significant reductions in our workforce that we've seen over recent years, caused by this government's unfair and unprecedented cuts in our funding, the Council has continued to enjoy stable industrial relations with our workforce and our trade unions. Since 2010, we have had to reduce our workforce by over 1,100 jobs. So far, less than 6% 60 of those jobs have been via compulsory redundancy. That means less than 6% of the jobs have been lost through compulsory redundancy. I personally think that's a remarkable record that this council should be very proud of. I'm not aware of any other council in this country that has been able to manage its workforce reductions in such a positive way. However, the relentless scale of the cuts being imposed on us by this government means that we are going to have to lose a further 130 jobs over the next 2 years.
At the bottom.
Whilst we will try to ensure that as many job losses as possible are managed through voluntary means, unfortunately it seems inevitable that there will have to be some compulsory redundancies across the council's workforce.
At the bottom.
It is with a heavy heart that we have to make some compulsory redundancies, because as you all know, colleagues, not one of us came into politics to make such decisions. But this government seems hell-bent on making local government and its workforce pay the price for a financial crisis that was not caused by local authorities such as ours and their staff. Even worse, this government seems determined to attack the lowest paid workers, those who are least able to cope with the cuts in their standard of living, and are an easy target for this government of millionaires who seems not to care about the impact of their spiteful, politically motivated decisions. Excuse me. That is why, as part of the budget resolution we've heard today, this council is fighting back on behalf of the lowest end of our pay scale. By making a commitment to become a living wage employer by the 1st of October 2015, we are sending out a clear message that we will do whatever we can to defend, maintain and improve the living standards of the lowest paid. This is a stark contrast to how the government treats workers. The fact that we are making such a commitment at a time when the council's finances are under unprecedented pressure makes me proud to be a member of this Labour Council. This council has a track record of trying to treat its workforce fairly and with respect. Long may this continue, despite the efforts of this awful government to treat local government workers with just utter contempt. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Terry Byron, you wish to make a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The commitment to introduce a living wage across the Council's workforce from October the 1st, 2015, once again epitomises the differences between this Council and this Government. The Westminster Tories are supported by their Liberal Democrat friends and have no idea what life is like for the working class. Low-paid people trying to get on with their lives. Hard-working people who are trying to do their best for their families during extremely difficult times. We've heard a lot from this government about the financial crisis and whose fault it was and who's responsible for causing the financial system to crash. The one thing we can be absolutely certain about, that it wasn't caused by low-paid workers or their trade unions. It wasn't them who speculated recklessly with other people's money. It wasn't working class people who got paid millions of pound bonuses for bringing the country's economy to its knees. That is why we should all be proud of the fact that we, as a council, are saying enough is enough. We are committed to introducing a living wage from October the 1st and are sending out a message to the lowest paid workers that this council will value you and your contribution that you make improving lives in Knowsley.
Even the redundant ones.
All workers deserve the minimum of a living wage, and this council is playing its part to give the lowest paid a pay rise. This Labour Council is now at the forefront of this change, giving the most needy. This proposal gives, in line with the groundbreaking moves the Labour movement has made over many years, and I commend this change to you as basically the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Byron. Councillor Gary C, do you wish to comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Clearly this government's massive cuts to this council's funding mean that we've had to make tough choices, Mr Mayor, when it comes to funding any new investment. So it's a credit to this council that these budget proposals include an extra £9 million to support the social care services we provide to our most vulnerable residents. The investment in children's social care will help us to ensure every child is protected and the care we provide is the best that it can be. We are the corporate parents of these children and we must treat them like our own. But as Councillor Keats has set out, this budget investment in wider initiatives in this borough, as we move forward, there will be high quality housing, job opportunities, multi-million-pound investment in our infrastructure and town centres. Therefore, Mr Mayor, I fully support the proposals set out today, and I'm pleased that this isn't a council that simply aims to make the budget balance, but sets out key investments as we move forward with this borough to protect our most vulnerable residents. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor C. Councillor Murphy, do you wish to comment?
I do, Mr Mayor, yeah, thank you very much. I completely endorse the comments that have just been passed entirely. And while this government is making massive cuts to our funding, it's the demands on the health and social care are rising, and the government is quite impervious to the demands that have been on us, or they continue to cut our funding and expect us to fund more funding for the social care which is needed in this borough. And they just, I don't know if they're aware that these costs exist, that's let alone offer a solution to what we're supposed to do. But as Councillor Keats said, you know, 50% of our budget has been cut by this government. And it's hard enough to balance our own budget when they're reducing the amount of grants that come down to us. But as I see in the proposal that Councillor Keats has just expanded on before, I mean, it is this Labour Council's view that we continue to make the decisions that affect the needy in our borough, which we are doing and will do for the future. And as
like eviction.
sorry, as Cabinet Member for Health and Social Care, what he points out by counties as well, we have a that's cost. We've invested in health and social care. We know where it's needed, and we've made major investments this year for the investment of our the residents in our borough, the needy in our borough, and it should be done. It's quite obvious that I don't know what the Tory government are doing. We see the back of them as somebody granted in this May. But while they're cutting the funds, I know it sounds slow, but it's well meant. While the government are cutting the funds, the Knowsley Labour Council is invested in the people, the needy people in this borough. Thank you, sir.
So where do you get the money from then? If you got no money, how can you do all what he said?
Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
So you're going to vote against it, aren't you?
Does any other councillors wish to make any comments?
I don't think so, do you?
Councillor Keats, as the mover of the motion, would you like to add anything further before I put the motion to the vote?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would just like to thank everybody for all the hard work that's gone in to make this budget possible. There has been hard decisions, and there's going to be harder decisions in the future. But I would ask everybody to support this budget proposal. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
So more hard decisions, eh?
Thank you, Councillor Keats.
Very good.
Can we now put the motion to the vote? All those in favour?
Oh,
All those against? Are there any abstentions? The motion is carried.
oh, disappointed there.
And finally, colleagues and members in the public gallery, item number 12, any other items which I deem of an urgent nature. Seeing as there are no further items of an urgent nature, can I thank you all for your attendance here this afternoon. I now declare this meeting closed and wish you all a safe journey home. Thank you.
Anybody want to take this? No. Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah.